Hi, I'm Nick Schade at Kayaks. Welcome to episode 14 in my series on building the petrol play strip-built kayak. In the last episode, I glassed the coaming and deck interior. In this episode, I'll cut and install the hatch, I'll install deck fittings and the cheek plates, and I'll make the end pours. I usually cut the hatches freehand by tracing the pattern onto the deck and then cutting it out with a jigsaw. But the back deck of the petrol play is nearly flat. This allows me to make a template on my CNC machine and cut the hatch out with a router. I'm using a tiny 16th inch router bit in my small plunge router and cut the hatch in a couple passes. The hatch shell is made from two parts, the spacer that has the same inner diameter as the hatch and the lip with a 3/4 inch smaller inner diameter. They both have the same outer dimension, about a ½ inch larger than the hole. I dry fit the parts to make sure everything is the right size and fits well. This also allows me to practice getting everything aligned before they're sticky with epoxy. I want to glue the spacer and lip together before gluing the assembled sill into the boat. This way I can clean up any glue squeeze out and sand the edges before final assembly. Some tape on the deck interior lets me remove the sill after glue cures. The masking tape contains the mess and nothing sticks to this clear blue flash tape. Assembling the sill in place on the deck assures the finished piece matches the slight curve of the deck. With the spacer in place, I apply some epoxy to the surface. I've added some colloidal silica to the epoxy to make a thicker glue. I also apply glue to the mating surface of the lip. Gluing both sides assures there's no pinholes to allow water into the finished hatch. There's no such thing as too many clamps. I want a tight seam all the way around. This kayak is getting some of my recessed deckline fittings. These are mounted through egg-shaped holes in the deck. I cut the holes using a template and a router. The slot for the retractable Schade control is installed in a similar manner. The recessed fittings need a little shaping to fit to the curved deck surface. I scuff up the fiberglass for a stronger glue bond. The fittings will get a layer of fiberglass over the inside for strength and protection. Masking tape around each fitting contains the mess. Each hole and fitting is coated with unthickened epoxy that will soak into the wood before applying epoxy thickened with wood flour as a final glue. The Schade control slot is installed in the same manner. Off camera, I rounded over the edges of the hatch sill, then glued it in place. Now I want a layer of fiberglass to reinforce it and encapsulate the wood. I use bias cut strips to conform to the shape and contours. It's my goal to have a layer of fiberglass cloth over every bit of wood in the whole kayak. While varnish provides good protection, the thickness and reinforcement provided by the fiberglass and epoxy followed by varnish creates a layer of armor that can't be matched by a couple coats of varnish alone. This often means a lot of extra work. Getting the glass to wrap over these deck fitting bumps is a hassle, but it's a lot easier to do this now than to replace a rotten piece later because someone failed to maintain the kayak properly. Cheek plates help keep your butt centered in the kayak. They also provide a convenient place to mount the backrest. I weld the plate in place with CA glue. CA glue by itself isn't strong enough, so the plates are reinforced with fillets and fiberglass. I also added some carbon fiber for additional strength. Fillets and glass on both sides of the plates. A traditional end pour involves standing the kayak on end and pouring some resin in to make a solid tip. Instead, I'm going to make a little dam at each end out of an old squeegee to create a reinforced place to mount the grab loop. The dammed volume doesn't need to be large, just big enough to drill a hole through. I added some quartz microspheres to the epoxy to make a thick, lightweight mix, then a little graphite powder to darken the color. After lightly scoring the fresh fiberglass and epoxy with a sharp utility knife, I peel off the excess fiberglass. On the outside of the deck line fittings and skeg control slot are planed, rasped, and sanded flush and smooth. Outside of the fittings are protected under a layer of fiberglass. The excess glass is trimmed and a fill coat is added. After the epoxy is set up, the remaining glass is trimmed and ragged edges are sanded smooth. Over on the hull, the end pours are cured and the dam can be popped out. Rasp off the excess material to allow for a snug fit with the deck. This little jig measures a consistent distance down from the shear while providing a horizontal reference as I drill through the end pour. I start with a 1/4-inch pilot hole going all the way through. Then I make a large countersink on either side. I finished with a 3/8 hole going halfway through from one side, then completing it from the other side. This prevents blowout while keeping the hole in the right place. The deck and hull are now almost complete and ready to join together, so in the next episode I'll apply some varnish to the interior, then merge the deck and hull back into one unit. If you have any questions on the work I did in this episode, please post them in the comments section. I'll be happy to answer everything I can. Until the next episode, happy paddling and thanks for watching.